Remember the other Las Vegas, a place where parking was an invitation, not a trap. A place where generosity was a business strategy. The casino bosses of the day understood a simple truth. If you make the common man feel like a king, he will come back. But then Wall Street came along. And in the boardrooms where the soul of Vegas was sold, an idea was born. An idea that was considered crazy, a secret weapon for extorting money. It was called the resort fee. Today, we're going to tell its story. A story of greed, legal battles, and how a small fee killed the magic of an entire city. The anatomy, legality, and the biggest offenders. Here's the uncomfortable truth. A resort fee is a per-room, per-night mandatory surcharge that hotels separate from the base rate to make prices look lower in search results. The Federal Trade Commission studied this years ago and concluded that separating mandatory resort fees from posted room rates without first disclosing the total price is likely to harm consumers by increasing search and cognitive costs when you try to comparison shop. In plain English, it wastes your time and leads you to overpay. So, is it legal? Until recently, the fight was mostly about disclosure, not the existence of the fee. Attorneys general forced chains to show resort fees clearly. Marriott reached a deal with Texas in 2023 to display all mandatory charges up front, a blueprint that pressured the rest of the industry. In December 2024, the FTC announced a nationwide rule aimed at junk fees, and that rule took effect on May 12, 2025. For short-term lodging, the total price must be shown up front. No more bait-and-switch drip pricing, though the rule doesn't ban resort fees outright. Think of it as show the full number first, not abolish the fee. Where do fees bite the hardest? Las Vegas remains the poster child. In 2025, analysts tracking 90 properties found the highest strip-level resort fees hit $55 per night before tax. That's about $62.36, with Las Vegas's 13.38% tax. At marquee names like Aria, Bellagio, Vdara, and Four Seasons Mandalay Bay. Many others climbed into the $49.95 to $50 tier. Caesar's Palace, Paris, Planet Hollywood, the Cromwell, Venetian, Palazzo, Wynn Encore, MGM Grand, Resorts World, and more. Put differently, one night across all 90 properties would cost $3,603.62 in resort fees alone, averaging $40.04 per hotel. Hawaii and New York aren't far behind, just less centralized. On Oahu, mainstream hotels commonly post nightly fees around $40 to $57. Examples include Hilton Waikiki Beach, $53.08, and similar charges across Waikiki, now required to be included in all-in pricing under the FTC rule. In New York City, many properties swapped in destination fees, often $25 to $50 per night, again mandatory, and now subject to upfront disclosure. The bottom line? The labels differ, the math doesn't. Why hotels love the fee even with all-in pricing rules? 2 reasons. First, it still bundles low-cost items, Wi-Fi, gym, boarding pass printing, at a high perceived value. Second, even if the total must be shown, revenue accounting and OTA commission dynamics can still favor keeping a separate, named charge. The FTC's own economic paper also notes hotels long argued resort fees reduce commissions paid to online travel agents, one reason the practice proliferated. Consumer tip. Las Vegas does have a handful of no resort fee options, e.g., Four Queens, Desert Rose Resort, and a few select chain properties. But inventory is limited and sells fast. Meanwhile, elite status at some casino programs can waive fees on comped stays, one of the few reliable escapes left. Las Vegas jaunt. If you think $55 is wild, wait until we look at how transparent pricing is changing traveler behavior. And which cities are quietly inventing new ways to charge the same money under friendlier names? Transparent pricing rules, but the fee still lives on. Imagine booking a Vegas getaway today. You open your laptop, search for a $79 per night deal, and for a moment it feels like you scored a bargain. But then, bam, your checkout screen flips that $79 into $145 once the mandatory resort fee is added. You might think, wait, didn't the government just ban this? Not exactly. In May 2025, the Federal Trade Commission's new junk fee transparency rule took effect. For the first time in U.S. history, hotels and short-term rentals must show the total price up front, resort fee included. No more bait and switch where a $29 room morphs into $89 at checkout. Consumer advocates celebrated, calling it the end of deceptive drip pricing. And it is, in part. But here's the catch. The rule forces transparency, not elimination. Hotels can keep charging $50 a night for amenities you may never use, like gym access, pool towels, or free Wi-Fi, so long as they show it in the headline price. Why does that matter? Because psychology is everything in travel pricing. When travelers scroll Expedia or Google hotels, they no longer see artificially cheap base rates. That levels the playing field, but it also exposes just how high Vegas and Hawaii have pushed their fees. On the Strip, $55 nightly charges at Bellagio, Aria, or Vidara are no longer buried, they stare you in the face. And when consumers start sorting by total price, suddenly off-strip casinos or fee-free independents like the Four Queens look like heroes. Hotels know this. Some are experimenting with rebranding the fee itself. In New York, resort fees became destination fees. In San Francisco, some call them urban fees. A few properties bundle breakfast or credits to soften the blow, less like a hidden tax, more like a prepaid package. The transparency rule may trigger a wave of marketing reinventions, but the money still flows to the hotels. And here's the twist. Economists warn the rule could accelerate consolidation. Chains with pricing power can shrug off the transparency shift, but smaller hotels, once able to compete by disguising a low base rate, lose that edge. So while travelers may cheer seeing the real price up front, behind the scenes, the industry is recalibrating how to keep margins intact. If you think the resort fee saga ends with transparency, think again. In the next section, we'll explore the ripple effect, how lawsuits, state AG battles, and consumer backlash are reshaping the very survival of this fee, and why hotels keep fighting tooth and nail to protect it. The legal battlefield. Why resort fees refuse to die. Resort fees aren't just a traveler's annoyance. They've become a legal chess match stretching across courtrooms, state houses, and boardrooms. For nearly a decade, attorneys general from Nebraska to Pennsylvania have hammered hotel chains with one key accusation: deceptive pricing. The claim? Advertising a $99 room while quietly tacking on $45 in mandatory fees isn't just bad ethics, it's false advertising. The most high-profile showdown came in 2019, when Nebraska's AG sued Hilton, alleging the company misled consumers with hidden fees. Marriott was hit with a similar suit in Washington, D.C. After years of back and forth, Marriott settled in 2021, agreeing to disclose all fees up front on its booking site. That deal set a precedent. If one giant blinked, others would follow. Soon, Hilton, Hyatt, and even Expedia began adjusting their displays under pressure. But here's the twist. None of these settlements outlawed resort fees themselves. They only demanded clearer disclosure. Think of it as forcing the magician to perform his trick in daylight. You still lose your money, you just see how it vanishes. Enter the FTC's 2024 junk fee crackdown. While hailed as a win for consumers, it stopped short of a ban. Why? Because hotels lobbied aggressively, arguing that fees fund universal amenities and that banning them would reduce competition. Behind closed doors, industry groups warned that without the ability to separate fees, hotels would raise base rates across the board, hurting budget-conscious travelers even more. The irony? Economists say consumers already pay more overall, because bundling low-value services at inflated prices distorts market competition. Meanwhile, class action lawsuits keep piling up. Guests at Vegas properties like Caesars and MGM have filed claims arguing resort fees violate state consumer protection laws. Some suits allege fraud, others unfair trade practices. Judges have been reluctant to call the fees illegal, but every case raises the same haunting question. If a charge is unavoidable, should it be rolled into the room rate by law? What keeps hotels clinging to this battlefield? Simple math. According to industry analysts, resort fees generate over $3 billion annually nationwide. In Las Vegas alone, the Strip's top resorts pull in more from fees than many regional casinos earn in gaming revenue. Cutting that stream would slash shareholder dividends and bonus pools overnight. So the war continues. Travelers fume, lawyers argue, regulators push for disclosure, and hotels dig in their heels. But here's the bigger story. While courts wrangle over fairness, the market itself may deliver the final blow. Because consumers, armed with apps that rank by total price, are starting to punish properties that play the fee game hardest. And that leads us straight into the next twist: how the consumer revolt, from TikTok rants to viral gotcha videos, has become one of the most powerful weapons against resort fees yet. The consumer revolt, when social media turns the tables. Scroll TikTok or Reddit today and you'll see it. Angry travelers exposing the $39.95 Wi-Fi charge that didn't actually get them faster internet, or the daily gym access they never used because the treadmill was broken. Resort fees have become a meme, and memes have teeth. Platforms like TikTok, Instagram Reels, and YouTube Shorts now host millions of clips where tourists call out hotels for deceptive charges. Some of these videos rack up millions of views in days, embarrassing brands that spend billions on polished marketing campaigns. This revolt is more than venting. It's driving measurable behavior change. A 2024 survey by the American Hotel and Lodging Association found 71% of travelers said resort fees made them less likely to book at a property, and nearly half said they canceled or switched to another hotel after discovering hidden charges late in the process. Hotels once counted on consumer fatigue. You'll grumble but still pay. Now, viral outrage is teaching people to comparison shop differently. Apps like Google Hotels and Kayak now highlight no resort fee properties as a selling point. Vegas veterans rave online about spots like Four Queens or Desert Rose Resort, where what you see is what you pay. These mentions spread fast, creating free advertising for the minority of hotels bucking the fee trend. Meanwhile, TikTok influencers run side-by-side comparisons. This $99 room with a $50 fee costs more than that $130 boutique hotel. Don't get fooled. Suddenly, transparency isn't just a legal requirement. It's a competitive weapon. Hotels hate this shift because it erodes one of their key pricing advantages, anchoring perception around a fake base rate. Once consumers realize a $59 room is actually $105 after fees, trust crumbles. And in hospitality, broken trust is poison. Even big brands like Caesars and MGM now face reputational drag from being seen as the worst offenders. In an age where your Google rating or TripAdvisor reviews can sink bookings, that reputational hit stings. But perhaps the most dangerous angle for the industry is generational. Gen Z travelers, raised on digital transparency and accustomed to instant price comparison, see resort fees as a scammy relic. They're vocal, they're mobile first, and they don't hesitate to flame a brand publicly. That creates a long-term brand risk that lawsuits alone could never match. This grassroots consumer rebellion doesn't just hurt hotel reputations, it's beginning to shape regulation. Lawmakers cite viral videos and public anger as proof that the practice damages consumer trust, giving momentum to tighter rules. So while the FTC may have stopped short of banning resort fees outright, the cultural tide could finish the job. And if you think the revolt ends with TikTok rants, wait until you see how investors and Wall Street analysts are now questioning whether these hated fees are a sustainable revenue stream or a liability waiting to implode. Wall Street's dilemma: cash cow or ticking time bomb? To hotel executives, resort fees are a golden goose. In Las Vegas alone, analysts estimate these surcharges generate hundreds of millions annually. Money that often flows straight to the bottom line because the so-called amenities they cover, Wi-Fi, pools, gyms, carry minimal marginal costs. For Wall Street, that looks like easy, high-margin revenue. Investors love it. But here's where the story shifts. When a revenue stream relies on angering your own customers, you've got a long-term brand problem. Analysts at J.P. Morgan and Moody's have started flagging reputational risk in their coverage of the hospitality sector. They note that while fees currently pad earnings, the blowback could reduce loyalty, increase customer churn, and attract regulatory heat. For shareholders, that translates into uncertainty, and Wall Street hates uncertainty. Take Caesars Entertainment. The company leaned heavily on resort fee revenue post-pandemic, pushing nightly charges close to $50 at flagship properties. On earnings calls, executives boasted about ancillary revenue growth, but investors noticed something troubling. Occupancy growth lagged rivals, particularly at fee-free or lower-fee competitors downtown. Translation: short-term fee gains might be cannibalizing long-term market share. It's not just Vegas. Hawaii, New York, and Florida report similar patterns. Hotels with aggressive fees see higher complaints, lower online ratings, and weaker repeat business. Wall Street is starting to ask, is this sustainable? Or are resort fees the equivalent of squeezing the lemon dry, profitable today, but setting the brand up for decline tomorrow? Some hedge funds already model scenarios where resort fee bans wipe billions off future revenue projections. The FTC's transparency rule may be just the first step. If consumer anger keeps building, state legislatures, or even Congress, could move to outlaw the practice entirely. Imagine the financial shock. Overnight, companies lose a revenue stream worth billions. For publicly traded giants like MGM and Caesars, that would hammer quarterly results and likely trigger stock sell-offs. Even the credit rating agencies are weighing in. Fitch warned in late 2024 that fee-driven revenue models in hospitality may face structural headwinds as regulators and consumer sentiment turn negative. In Wall Street speak, that's a shot across the bow. So while resort fees remain a financial lifeline today, investors are whispering the same question guests have been shouting for years. How long can this last? And if Wall Street is nervous, just wait, because the next battleground isn't financial at all. It's political. Lawmakers across the country are sniffing opportunity, and junk fees are turning into a campaign slogan you'll hear again and again. Politics, populism, and the junk fee slogan. When a hidden hotel surcharge makes it all the way to the White House, you know the backlash has gone mainstream. Resort fees have joined overdraft charges, ticketing surcharges, and airline seat selection costs in the political bullseye, rebranded under one unifying banner: junk fees. In 2023, President Biden's State of the Union address explicitly called them out, vowing to crack down on fees you don't know about until you check out. That line drew applause not only because it resonated with average travelers, but because it tapped into a wider populist wave. Americans across party lines are tired of feeling nickel and dimed. By 2024, junk fees became a bipartisan talking point, with senators in both red and blue states promising action. The Federal Trade Commission's May 2025 transparency rule was the first concrete step. But politicians aren't stopping there. Consumer advocacy groups are lobbying for outright bans, arguing that mandatory charges outside the base room rate are inherently deceptive. Several state attorneys general, from Nevada to Pennsylvania, are pushing for legislation that would either cap or prohibit resort fees entirely. Nevada's case is especially fascinating. Vegas casinos are both the worst offenders and the state's economic engine. Lawmakers walk a tightrope between protecting consumers and keeping the Strip's billion-dollar machine humming. Meanwhile, political strategists see resort fees as a winning campaign prop. They're easy to explain, universally hated, and relatable to nearly every voter who's booked a hotel. Expect to see stump speeches where candidates slam Vegas scams or promise all-in pricing for all Americans. In an election season where economic frustration runs high, attacking junk fees costs little and polls well. But here's the wrinkle. Hotel lobbyists are powerful. The American Hotel and Lodging Association spends millions annually to argue that resort fees fund valuable services and support jobs. Their line: if forced to fold fees into base rates, budget travelers will suffer because nightly costs will rise across the board. It's a clever spin, but as more voters share their $50 for Wi-Fi horror stories online, the narrative may be slipping from the industry's control. This politicization means the future of resort fees is no longer just a hospitality issue. It's a ballot box issue, and when politicians smell blood, regulation usually follows. The only question is whether hotels can adapt fast enough before legislation forces their hand. And while lawmakers fight over fairness, a different storm is brewing in the travel industry itself. Next up, how airlines, booking platforms, and even rival destinations are weaponizing the resort fee debate to steal customers. The industry crossfire. Airlines, OTAs, and rival cities strike back. Here's the twist nobody saw coming. It's not just guests or regulators gunning for resort fees. Entire industries are now exploiting the backlash to their own advantage. Airlines, online travel agencies, and even rival destinations have turned no junk fees into a marketing weapon. Take airlines. For years, they've been the poster children of hidden charges. Baggage, seat selection, change fees. But as public anger shifted toward hotels, some carriers cleverly flipped the script. Southwest Airlines ran ad campaigns in 2024 highlighting, "Bags fly free, unlike Vegas, no resort fees here." They weren't just selling flights, they were throwing shade at hotels, tapping into the same resentment travelers felt. It worked, boosting Southwest's brand loyalty while reminding flyers that not everyone plays the hidden fee game. Online travel agencies, OTAs, like Expedia, Booking.com, and Google Hotels, went even further. Armed with the FTC's new rule, they resigned search results to spotlight total price and even added no resort fee filters. For fee-free properties, this was rocket fuel. Suddenly, their listings shot to the top when travelers sorted by best value. In contrast, Strip giants charging $50 per night found themselves losing clicks and conversions. OTAs don't love resort fees either, since they often don't get commission on that portion of the booking. So every viral TikTok slamming resort fees is a gift to platforms eager to redirect traffic toward cleaner listings. Then come the rival cities. Destinations like Laughlin, Reno, Biloxi, and even Midwestern gaming hubs like Kansas City have seized the opportunity to brand themselves as Vegas without the fees. Tourism boards have leaned into messaging that emphasizes value and transparency. In Reno, Tahoe, for instance, some hotels now market with slogans like, "What you see is what you pay, no Vegas tricks." It's a subtle dig, but one that resonates with cost-conscious travelers tired of feeling ripped off on the Strip. This multi-front attack matters because it erodes Vegas's once unshakable dominance. If every competitor highlights no resort fees, suddenly the Strip's glitzy fountains and neon lights aren't enough to offset the sting of a $55 nightly surcharge. Even loyal Vegas regulars are defecting. Travel forums are littered with comments like, "I used to go 3 times a year. Now I'm in Laughlin. Same gambling, half the price, no scams." That sentiment, multiplied across thousands of travelers, has real economic weight. So the battlefield isn't just consumer trust or regulatory compliance anymore. It's competitive positioning. Airlines, OTAs, and rival destinations have realized that every dollar Vegas extracts in fees is a dollar of loyalty they can steal. And if you think competition is fierce now, wait until you see the final frontier in this war. The technology arms race, where AI tools, browser plugins, and travel hacks could render resort fees obsolete by exposing them in real time. The technology arms race, apps, AI, and travel hacks expose the truth. Picture this. You're on your phone late at night, scrolling for a weekend getaway. In the past, you might have been duped by that seductive $79 nightly rate. Today, a browser plugin pings you. Warning, this hotel adds a $52 resort fee. True cost, $131. With one click, the illusion is shattered. This is the future of booking. New tools like Google's total price filters, TripAdvisor's fee callouts, and independent browser extensions are giving travelers an X-ray vision of hidden costs. Some startups even scrape booking engines in real time to calculate all-in nightly rates across dozens of hotels, then rank them by true affordability. The FTC didn't create these tools, the outrage did. Entrepreneurs saw the anger and built transparency into code. Even AI is joining the fight. Chat-based assistants are increasingly able to parse listings and warn you about add-on charges before you book. Imagine asking, "Find me a Vegas hotel under $150 per night with no junk fees." Suddenly, that narrows the Strip's 150 options to a tiny handful. And those handful, Four Queens, Desert Rose, certain boutique independents, get a tidal wave of attention. It's market Darwinism. Adapt or die. Travel hackers are also spreading workarounds. TikTok is full of tutorials. Book through casino loyalty programs to waive fees, use credit card elite status to bypass them, or target fee-free properties for comp upgrades. What used to be insider knowledge is now mainstream, democratized by influencers hungry for views. The result? Hotels can't rely on confusion to keep the gravy train rolling. Transparency is spreading faster than corporate PR can contain it. For Vegas, the consequences are massive. The Strip thrives on volume, not just high rollers. If budget-conscious travelers armed with these tools keep defecting to Reno, Laughlin, or Biloxi, where the no-resort fee pitch is proudly front and center, Vegas risks pricing itself out of the very middle-class market that built its empire. The irony? Technology has made it easier than ever for consumers to see the true cost of travel, but it's also made it harder for hotels to back down quietly. Once a revenue stream is digitized, exposed, and dissected on TikTok, there's no putting that genie back in the bottle. And that brings us to the biggest question of all, the endgame. Will resort fees survive this era of exposure, lawsuits, and consumer revolt? Or are we watching the slow death of the most hated fee in America? The endgame. Will America's most hated fee finally disappear? Here's the million-dollar question, or rather the $3 billion a year one. Will resort fees actually die, or just evolve into another form? History suggests the latter. Remember when airlines were forced to show all-in ticket prices? Baggage and seat selection fees didn't vanish, they multiplied. Hotels are likely to try the same playbook: rename, repackage, and resell. Some are already calling them experience fees, or folding them into mandatory service charges. But something is different this time. Unlike airline baggage fees, which travelers grudgingly accept as optional, resort fees are mandatory charges for amenities you often don't use. That distinction keeps them in the regulatory crosshairs and fuels consumer rage. Add to that the viral megaphone of TikTok, the competition from fee-free rivals, and the FTC's new transparency rule, and suddenly the business case looks shakier. Even Wall Street analysts now whisper that resort fees may be structurally unsustainable. The likeliest outcome? A two-tier market. Luxury strip casinos and Hawaii beachfront giants may cling to $50+ nightly fees, gambling that their brand prestige offsets the resentment. But mid-tier and regional hotels, facing competition, weaker loyalty, and sharper online price filters, will be forced to drop or disguise them. Over time, consumer behavior could punish the worst offenders, while rewarding transparent players with higher occupancy and stronger repeat business. For now, though, the hated surcharge still lives. Every time you check into a Vegas resort or a Waikiki tower, you'll feel that sting at checkout. A reminder that in the U.S. hospitality industry, even the simplest transaction comes with fine print. And maybe that's the real lesson here. Resort fees aren't just about money. They're about trust. Once broken, trust is nearly impossible to rebuild. Hotels can hide behind legal loopholes and creative rebranding, but the public has made up its mind. The most despised fee in America won't survive forever. Not because regulators kill it, but because travelers do. So there you have it. Resort fees, America's most hated travel surcharge, exposed from every angle. My advice? Always check the total price before booking, and reward hotels that play fair. What do you think? Should these fees be banned? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and don't forget to subscribe.